everyone, welcome to my channel. Today is my niece's birthday, but because of the lockdown I can't really go out and get her any present. So I thought I'd surprise her with making her a portrait. And I really can't wait to see the expression on her face when she sees it. I thought I'd share the same with you so that you can also make a portrait of your loved ones and surprise them as well. So let's get started. I start off with mixing the different shades in her face. So Shrishti has a light medium Indian skin tone, and her forehead is a little more towards yellow. I mean, each of us have many different shades on our faces. We're not the single shade or tone across all over. So her cheeks and her lips have a reddish pinkish tint. The shadows in her face, say under the nose, under the eyes, or under the lips, also shadows under her hair, under her chin. All these shadows have a slight cool tone to them. They're darker, of course, but they have a slight cooler tone than the warm tones in the rest of her face. So I've mixed the different colors. I'm using burnt sienna, raw sienna, red, white, yellow, and I'm also using a little bit of ultramarine blue, primarily to make the shadows a little cool. I'm using an A4 mixed media sheet here. It's essentially paper. I like to paint on canvas, but during the lockdown, this is all I could manage. I've already sketched her face here, and I've started laying on the different colors on her face, primarily just blocking out different shades and tones on her face. So it's important to establish the light source, and in this case it's on the top left hand corner, and that's why I'm starting off with painting all the shadows that where the light does not hit directly, and that's where the darker and the cooler shades go in. Once I'm done with the shadows, then I will fill in the rest of the face with midtones, and then eventually move on to the highlights. So you can decide to skip the sketch and directly start layering on the paint, because what you have to really follow is just the blocks of color, starting from the dark mid-tones and then the lighter tones, and all these different blocks of color will automatically take the shape of the face and the different features of the face when they all come together. Having said that, I find it much easier to paint when I start with a sketch, because at that stage it's much easier to maintain the proportions and between the different features, and erase and fix any areas that you think do not really resemble the subject. I know this looks scary at this moment, but don't worry. This is mostly an underpainting and also putting in the shadows in the right places. And now, as you can see, I've started putting in the mid-tones to fill in the rest of the face. I like painting in layers. I'm putting a mid-tone on top of the darker tone that I put earlier, and I'll top it up with another lighter tone on top of this. I could have chosen to match the colors in my palette exactly to the final colors that I want, and I could have put them on in all the different places on the face and just merge them together. That's another technique I could have adopted, but I just like painting mostly in layers, and this is what I'm doing right now, because a lot of times I like some of the underpainting that shows through and it gives it more texture. So see, I've put in all the shadows, the shadow of the hair, the nose, eyes, lips, chin, jawline, and now I'm looking at all the places, the high points on her face where the light hits, and I'm making them light and brighter. For her lips and the cheeks, I've just mixed in a tint of red in the lighter skin tone that I had already created. I did not take a stark mixture of just red and white, because that would be a bit, too bright a pink and not really merging with the skin tone. So I find it that it gels much better with the skin if you mix the pink in the skin tone itself. And I'm doing the eyes in the end for this one. Sometimes I like to start off with the eyes, and that's especially useful if you're not starting off with a sketch, and if you're just blocking in areas directly with the paintbrush. I find it works much better if you start with the eyes, because that way, the eyes are the focal point of the picture, and it just serves as a guide for me for the rest of the painting. But yeah, in this case, I'm pretty much doing it in the end after doing all the other features, at least blocking in all the other features. I haven't done a lot of fine tuning. It's important to keep stepping back time and again and looking at your portrait from a distance. I did not do it in this one, and I realized that it resulted in the eye being slightly out of proportion and compared to each other. I eventually fixed it, but it's always a good idea to step back multiple times and see how everything looks, especially like in this case where I don't have this on an easel and I have it on a tabletop. The angle at which you look at the painting while doing it can result in some deviations. Now for some flush of red on her cheeks. I'm going to interspace the rest of her face also with a little bit of the red, because I don't want the cheeks to suddenly pop out as a blob of red where the rest of the face has no red undertone at all. So I'm pretty much just dispersing this color across the face so that she gets an overall flushed kind of a complexion. I've lost some of those shadows in there, so let me try and bring back some of them. Don't worry if your colors get dried fast and you're not able to achieve a perfectly blended outcome. In fact, a less than perfect blended outcome gives a more painterly kind of feeling and gives a little air to the subject. I like it better than having a perfectly blended outcome. So her hair is black. I've still mixed in a little bit of brown to it, just so that I can capture the highlights in some of the strands of the hair, but by and large her hair is black. It's important to get the strokes of the brush right. The direction in which you're painting needs to be correct, because if you start painting the hair in a haphazard manner, for example, except instead of the direction of the strands, it will look really messy and it won't really look like the hair is let loose and flowing the way it is. The same goes for even when we painted the face. If you paint along the curves of the face and how the skin really sits on the face, then it will look more realistic. I would hold the brush from much further than I am doing right now, and give much looser and broader sweeps of color. But since this is a small canvas and I'm not really used to painting on such a small size paper, I have to be more precise. I'm going quite being quite careful with the brush. I like to use the largest size of a brush that I comfortably can, and for the most of the painting I've used this size 4 flat brush. In fact, you would see me using this brush in almost all my paintings. I paint almost anything and everything with it, whether it's lines, whether it's filling in the surface, etc. And I've used a liner brush only for the eyes or very, very thin lines here. Here I've done the eyebrows and I've also added some highlights on the face. My camera went off on me, so I couldn't record all the steps, but as you can see, I've added highlights on the face and also on the hair. I've added a background. I wanted to keep the background a little light and fuzzy and not detail out everything that's in the background, so that the focus is on the face. I've also put in a little bit of the light purple in her hair, just to bring in harmony with the colors in the background. I'm calling it done now. I'm quite pleased with the outcome. It looks like Srishti, and I hope she's excited when she sees this. I hope you enjoyed watching this, and if you have any questions for me, please leave them in the comments and also leave your feedback. If you'd like to see more such videos, don't forget to hit subscribe and the bell button. Until next time, happy painting!